the public believes that when they parade a suspect in front of you, this is the actual culprit, especially if they're a black person. And part of that truth happens through technology. And I'm using that word in particular, even though that's part of the Urban Dictionary, because let's say a commercial comes on TV, and instead of you looking at the commercial with your eyes, you just listen to the commercial and close your eyes. What you will hear is not what you see. You'll hear things like, you could lose your life. This could cause you to have no limbs. You could die. But when you're watching the commercial, you see a person having a great time. You don't even see at the bottom of the screen, it says actor or actress portrayals. And so this is not a person who's really sick exhibiting these things. This is a person who's just playing sick. They're acting, you know? And I think that that's really, really important, because when we get the awesome opportunity to hear what it is that they are saying, when we see the news being portrayed, when we hear what the media is talking about when they talk about suspects, you can almost begin to figure out what color skin the person is just by listening to the language that's being used to describe the person.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Thank you. Another here from the Daily 49er. What are your thoughts and feelings on the defund the police movement?
I think that the defund the police movement has not been defined nationally so that it can be clearly understood. And I say that because it has taken off in a way that is meaningful. And by meaningful, I mean this. Far too often, we see that the system is oppressive. When you do the research, and you know, everybody has these origin story movies, right? So if you do the origin story of the police, you realize that the police were created as slave catchers. And so if that still is in the minds of the police departments, even though there are people there that look like me, I think that the underlying thing that is running throughout these departments is institutional protectionism, which is really racism, which is really white supremacy, white male dominance. And so when a person is in that system and they do wrong, the system protects them. When I hear defund the police, when I hear abolish, prisons, when I hear abolition in general, I don't hear we want to live without a system. I do hear we want to live without a system. But what I hear is that the system that we are currently under is not a system for the people. We are the people. And so if we are the people, then the system has to be reimagined to be inclusive of all of us who are in these United States, all of us who have citizenship here. Everybody who looks like the other person has to be afforded the opportunity to be seen, to be heard, to be understood, to be valued. America is supposed to be the land of the free. It's supposed to be the place where you can dream your wildest dreams. But unfortunately, if you are part of the marginalized, as I alluded to earlier, you are most certainly going to be presented with the American nightmare as your reality.
Thank you. So art is a very powerful tool when it comes to sharing stories, expressing yourself, and particularly for spreading hope, I think, as is the case with a lot of the art that you've produced and helped produce. So how have those artistic endeavors, like the documentary about the Central Park Five, the Netflix series, and your recent novel, Punching the Air, how have they helped in not only telling your story, but also advocating and promoting your causes?
I think they've been tremendous. When you think about being able to talk about the issue and you have a film that reaches into 190 plus different countries in their language, you get the opportunity to, first of all, drum up the amount of support that you need to put pressure on America to change. Because far too often, the world is looking at the curtain called America. They don't really see what's going on behind the curtain. But those of us who have had a front row seat to oppression, we see what's going on. We experience what's going on. Even those of us who are privileged are saying to themselves, this is wrong. I want to use my privilege to change the system. I want to help. I want to figure out how we can move forward. I want to figure out how can we come to the embodiment of the kaleidoscope of the human family that Dr. King talked about. And I think that that's the part that's important, because you need tools to do that. And so in our book, Punching the Air really, the readers who are in charge of being the caretakers of tomorrow, those who are educators, those who are the ones who are teaching, who are pouring into young people, it gives them the ability to vicariously walk through the shoes of a Miss Rinaldi, as an example, of an officer who has a tattoo of black and brown babies with nooses around their necks, of a person who is trying to help, because I think even like with the Dr. Banu and everyone that's in there, you get an opportunity to figure out who has to be the advocates, right? Your parents have to be the greatest advocates that you need, because you need them in your corner. You need to have some type of family or friend interest that keeps you going. And then you have to know and figure out what that specialness is that's inside of you, that you and only you can give to the world. And I think that Amal finds that. And I think the most important thing too is that Amal begins to believe. I mean, we call him Amal on purpose, right? Because Amal means hope. And he begins to believe that he is his own savior. He is the hope of the future. And what happens when you begin to believe? That urgency kicks in. You begin to whistle while you work, so to speak. Life becomes a little bit more sweeter. You begin to understand why. And life doesn't become as confusing as it could be.
Thank you, Dr. Salaam. You are absolutely the epitome of hope and everything you just described. And I think your story is one that perfectly encapsulates turning injustice into opportunity, and something that I think all of us, I hope I'm speaking for everyone here when I say that I learned so much from your story and from all the perspective you share with us tonight. So that's all the questions I have, but I just really couldn't thank you enough. So
Well, thank you. Much appreciated.